As we embark on our journey together into the rather wonderful world of project management, I think there's probably no better place to start than by defining what we actually mean by a project. And the first characteristic worthy of discussion is the fact that projects are temporary. Now, sometimes people push back on this and they say to me, but I've been working on the same project for 5 years. But don't mistake temporary for meaning short term. It's got nothing to do with duration. It's about the fact that the project doesn't last forever, but more specifically that it has a defined beginning and end. And normally in an ideal world, the end of the project is reached when the objectives of the project have been achieved. Yay! But there could be other less positive factors which determine the end of the project, such as running out of money or resources, or maybe it turns out that the project's objectives are not going to be able to be met, or that the outcome of the project is no longer needed, for example. Now, the project itself might be described as temporary, but the outcome of the project should create something of lasting value. And in particular, a project is described as creating a unique product, service, or result. And even if you've built 10 office blocks in the last 10 years, which were broadly the same, each one is going to be unique because they're on different plots for a start, and there'll be other differences too, such as the people involved, the environment, and probably the specification and whatnot as well. So this uniqueness and the temporariness, I think I've just made up that word, but this helps us to distinguish projects from ongoing operations. The construction of the office block was a unique and temporary endeavour, but at the end of the project we transfer the deliverables, so the finished buildings in this case, to operations. And there's going to be building maintenance that needs to be done. But that is ongoing. That maintenance is not constrained by time and therefore is considered to be part of the day-to-day operations, which will continue potentially indefinitely. So even though, depending on the scenario, you might have team members working on both projects and operations, in the project management world, we should think of them as two distinct separate things. As part of our definition of a project, we can also say that it brings about a change. And by this I'm meaning some kind of measurable outcome whereby the business has moved from the current state, so how we are now, to a future one. And so when we successfully complete the project, we've arrived at that desirable future state that we were hoping for. And a project should also deliver some kind of business value. And by that we mean a quantifiable benefit. And this could be tangible or intangible, with the most obvious tangible benefit going to be money. But it could be market share, for example, or the actual goods you've created. And there might also be intangible benefits too, such as reputation or brand recognition and things like that. So let's just see all of those things on one whiteboard to build up our definition of a project. So here we are. A project is temporary. It creates something unique. It's distinct from ongoing operations, and it drives change in the organisation and creates business value. Marvellous. But I would just like to finish this video by pondering why we actually do projects. I mean, they aren't part of our normal day-to-day operations, so what are the factors that drive us to initiate a project in the first place? And there are a few of them, so you can see them here, but let's just run through them quickly. So maybe there's an opportunity, a market demand for a new product or service, and so you initiate a project in order to create it. Or maybe it's more of an internal need within your organisation, such as refurbishing the break room or upgrading your printers. Or maybe a customer has asked you to create something and that turns into a project. Or maybe it's simply technological advancement which is driving new projects in order to keep up. Or maybe there's some kind of legal or regulatory requirement. For example, if you sell to European Union residents, then you need to deal with their private data in a certain way according to the GDPR, and making those changes in order to conform could lead to a project. Now, I do have some homework for you. So in order to consolidate what we've learned in this video, I would like you to do two things. Firstly, I'd like you to write your own sentence or two which defines a project and check you've included all of the points that we mentioned. And then secondly, I'd like you to think of a couple of projects that either you've been involved with or simply ones you've been aware that have been happening in your organisation, and identify what were the factors which initiated the project as per that list. You know, was it a customer request or was it a legal requirement or whatever? And with that, I think we can safely say we've seen what defines a project and why they might be initiated.